Dr Heather Cameron-Whytock from the UK. Thank you for joining me to talk about the upcoming Health, Safety and Welfare Conference here in Australia.
Morning, thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. We're very excited to hear your presentation, which is going to be about towards a safer sport and using data for evidence-based risk management in equestrian sport. And you're speaking on the 12th of July at 7:45 p.m. Australia time. And it's just wonderful that you're making the effort to impart your knowledge and all of your experience, which what I'm reading is a lot. You're currently a senior lecturer and researcher in veterinary medicine at the University of Central Lancashire in the UK, and you recently completed your PhD in 2021, and that was it was focused all around eventing and using your experience and research using data to find ways that we can make a safer sport for both horses and people. So you're certainly the person we want to hear from. Thank you very much. Not only that, you also have been an eventer yourself, and you also produced a lot of young eventing horses. And the other thing is that you've worked with a team on and led many data projects for the FEI. You're well recognised in right throughout the world. I heard you at my first, introduction to the FEI seminar where we met, and you spoke on all of your data and research then. British eventing you've supported, you've worked with EA with some of our data analysis this year, which is wonderful, and also horse charities in the UK such as Red Wings. So you've really focused on safety and horse welfare. And I really loved a comment you made that you've shared with us about your wealth of experience, the good, the bad and the ugly. That's a really great comment, Heather. So just to kick off, can you tell us what data is and analysis means in the context of equestrian sport?
Okay, thank you, and thanks for the introduction. So yeah, data and analysis in equestrian sport. Data is any information that we record about the horse and rider. So for example, that might be their age, breed, sex in a database, or it might include things like competition results as well, like points they've scored or penalties they've scored in a competition. And it can actually go a lot wider than that too. And I'll talk about that in my presentation, where, essentially the more data we gather, the more power we have to use that data to inform things like risk management. So, for example, in some sports and industries, they also have veterinary data and training data. So the wider we can make that data gathering process, the more valuable the data is to us as researchers. And analysis is what we do with the data. So what questions do we ask using the data, and what sort of recommendations and feedback can we give from that analysis?
Yeah, wow. I think for some people that associate data analysis with this real complex scientific process, but, can you analyse and produce these results to be easily understood by everyday equestrians?
Yeah, I think it's not an easy question to answer that because it's multifaceted. So data analysis can be and is quite complex, and it's hopefully our job as a researcher and researchers to try and communicate that effectively to a layperson, like people in the industry and riders. But we've also got to exercise an element of caution about oversimplifying data and our analysis, because that can then mean that we aren't finding reliable results, or we aren't using proper scientific process which is validated. So it's a two-sided coin. It can be complex, but if we're good at our job as researchers, we should be able to communicate that effectively to people within the industry.
Yeah, fabulous. So it's not so scary, which is good. You can interpret it for us, which is great. So what are we going to learn from your presentation at our conference on the 12th of July?
So I'm going to talk about the importance of how we actually gather data. So we as researchers and statistical analysers, we need good data to be able to produce information for you that's useful as a governing body. And like my comment said, I've seen the good, the bad and the ugly. And when data isn't properly recorded, and that might mean it's not consistently recorded, so there's not enough of it, or it might mean there are variances in the way it's recorded, so the format of it, that can make our job a nightmare. We could spend probably more than even a year trying to tidy, or what we call clean, data. And obviously that can really slow down the process of us finding valuable information for the governing bodies. But in addition, if you think about if you were paying for a service, adding all that time on, it can be very costly. So starting right from the beginning, collecting good quality, consistent and clean data is very important. So I'll talk a lot about that in my presentation.
Yeah, fabulous. So last question, what's your take-home message about the use of data in equestrian sport?
So I'd say that my take-home message is that it ultimately is completely invaluable data, and it can be used for really important uses like risk management. But also we've got to be very cautious that we use data ethically, and that's something that as a scientist and a researcher is enforced in my role. And I'll talk about that and about a wider sort of what that means in reality in presentation. So yeah, using lots of data is great, but we must use it carefully and ethically, and that's really important.
Yeah, so that gives the end user a level of confidence and, in that whole process, which is really good to hear.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Heather. We will let you get on with your day in the UK since it's only early there this morning. We will really be looking forward to hearing your knowledge and experience and delivering that to us so we really understand the importance of data on the 12th of July at 7:45 p.m.
Great, thanks. I'm looking forward to it and I'll see you then.
Okay, bye.